Silent war.
Lysara Rathmore had always been told the war was over, that the wolves no longer fought for a kingdom lost to time. But when the first howl rose from inside the village walls, she felt it something ancient waking in her bones. The torches burned blue. The wind howled her name. And then he stepped forward golden-eyed, broad-shouldered, his voice low as thunder. "The time has come," he murmured, "and you will rise beside me." Chapter 1. The Blue Torch's Omen. The village of Oakhaven was nestled deep within a valley, cradled by ancient, whispering woods. For 62 years, Lysara Rathmore had known nothing but the quiet rhythm of its life, the scent of wood smoke and baking bread, the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the gentle murmur of the river that snaked its way through the heart of the valley. She had lived a life of quiet routine, a life punctuated by loss, yes, but also by a resilient, if somewhat weary, peace. Her husband, Thomas, had passed 5 years prior, leaving a void in her heart that she'd filled with tending her small garden and the occasional, comforting visit from her granddaughter, Alara. Tonight, however, was different. The annual Harvest Festival was underway, a celebration of the year's bounty, a time for gratitude and community. Torches lined the village square, casting a warm, flickering glow on the laughing faces of the villagers. But tonight, a strange unease had settled over Lysara. It started with a shiver down her spine, a feeling of being watched, a prickling awareness that something was profoundly off. She stood near the edge of the square, a hand-knitted shawl wrapped around her shoulders, her silver hair neatly braided. Her eyes, the color of faded denim, scanned the crowd, searching for the source of her disquiet. Alara, a vibrant young woman with her father's dark eyes and Lysara's determined chin, was dancing with a young man from the neighboring village, her laughter echoing through the night. For a moment, Lysara smiled, a flicker of warmth chasing away the chill. Then it happened. The torches, one by one, began to burn with an unnatural blue flame. Not a gentle, ethereal blue, but a vibrant, almost violent hue that pulsed with an inner light. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. The music faltered, the dancing stopped. The laughter died, replaced by a nervous murmur that quickly escalated into panicked whispers. Lysara felt a tremor run through the ground beneath her feet, a low, resonant vibration that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the earth. The air grew thick, heavy with a scent she couldn't quite place, something wild and untamed, like ozone and pine needles, and something else, something ancient and primal. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. This wasn't the familiar fear of old age, of loneliness, of the creeping shadows of mortality. This was something different, something older, something that resonated deep within her bones, a forgotten memory stirring in the depths of her being. The wind, which had been a gentle breeze just moments before, whipped up into a frenzy, swirling around the square, carrying with it fallen leaves and a chilling whisper that seemed to form a single, distinct word: Lysara. Her name, uttered by the wind. She gripped the shawl tighter, her knuckles white. Her breath caught in her throat, a strangled gasp. She felt a pull, an invisible force drawing her gaze towards the edge of the woods, where the shadows were deepest, where the blue flames of the torches cast an eerie, dancing light. And then, he stepped out of the darkness. He was tall, impossibly so, his silhouette a stark contrast against the flickering blue light. Broad shoulders, a powerful frame, and a presence that commanded attention, that silenced the remaining whispers and froze the villagers in place. He moved with a grace that was both predatory and mesmerizing, his footsteps silent on the cobblestone path. As he drew closer, Lysara could make out the details of his face. High cheekbones, a strong jawline dusted with a shadow of stubble, and eyes that glowed with the same unearthly golden light as the blue flames. They were the eyes of a predator, yes, but also held a depth of something else. Sorrow? Longing? She couldn't quite decipher it, but it held her captive, unable to look away. He stopped a few feet from her, his gaze locking with hers. The air crackled between them, charged with an energy that made the hair on the back of her neck stand on end. The scent that had been teasing her senses intensified, now undeniably a blend of wild musk and the damp earth of the forest floor. It was intoxicating, terrifying, and strangely familiar. He tilted his head slightly, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. It was not a smile of amusement, but of something deeper, something that hinted at a shared secret, a forgotten connection. His voice, when he spoke, was low and resonant, like the rumble of distant thunder, yet it carried a strange melody, a haunting cadence that seemed to vibrate deep within her chest. "The time has come," he murmured, his golden eyes never leaving hers. "And you will rise beside me." His words were cryptic, yet they struck a chord deep within her, awakening a dormant part of her soul. Rise? Rise to what? Beside him? Who was he? The questions swirled in her mind, a chaotic vortex of fear and intrigue. She wanted to run, to scream, to hide, but her feet felt rooted to the spot, her body betraying her mind's desperate pleas for escape. She could only stare, mesmerized, into those golden eyes, feeling a connection to this stranger that defied logic, that defied reason, that defied everything she thought she knew about her life, her world, her very self. The blue flames pulsed brighter, the wind howled louder, and Lysara knew, with a chilling certainty, that her quiet life in Oakhaven was over. Something ancient had awakened, and she was inextricably bound to it. Bound to him. Chapter 2. Echoes of a Forgotten War. The silence that followed his pronouncement was absolute, broken only by the crackling of the blue flames and the frantic beating of Lysara's own heart. The villagers, frozen in place, watched with a mixture of fear and awe, their faces pale in the unnatural light. Even Alara, who had always been fearless, stood rooted to the spot, her hand clutching the arm of her dance partner, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and curiosity. Lysara finally found her voice, though it trembled with uncertainty. Who are you?" she asked, the words barely a whisper. "What do you mean, Rise?" The stranger's golden eyes softened, a flicker of something akin to empathy crossing his features. He took a step closer, and Lysara instinctively flinched, a primal fear surging through her. He stopped, respecting her unspoken boundary, his gaze holding hers with an intensity that was both unnerving and strangely comforting. "My name is Kaelin," he said, his voice still low and resonant, but now carrying a hint of gentleness. "And as for Rise, it is a long story, Lysara. A story that is woven into the very fabric of this valley, into your blood, into your soul." His words sent a shiver down her spine. Her blood? Her soul? What did he know about her? She was just an old woman, a widow, a grandmother. She had no grand destiny, no hidden power. She was ordinary. "I don't understand," she stammered, her mind reeling. "I'm just Lysara Rathmore. I've lived here my whole life." Kaelin raised a hand, silencing her. "You are more than you know, Lysara. Much more. The blood of the Holofong flows through your veins, whether you know it or not." The Holofong. The name struck a chord, a distant, almost forgotten memory surfacing from the depths of her childhood. It was a name whispered in hushed tones, a legend, a myth. A story told to frighten children, a tale of werewolves and ancient battles, of a kingdom lost to time. Her grandmother used to tell her stories of the Holofong, a powerful clan of shapeshifters who had once ruled these lands, who had fought a brutal war against something. The details were hazy, shrouded in the mists of time and the embellishments of folklore. "The Holofong, that's just a story," Lysara said, her voice laced with disbelief. "My grandmother used to tell me stories, but it's not real." Kaelin's expression remained unchanged, his golden eyes holding a depth of knowing that contradicted her words. "The war may be over, Lysara, but the blood remembers. The magic remembers. And the torches, they burn blue for you." He gestured towards the flames, which continued to pulse with that unnatural, vibrant light. Lysara looked at them, truly looked at them for the first time. She saw not just the blue flames, but a swirling energy within them, a power that seemed to hum with a life of its own. And she felt it, a faint tingling sensation in her fingertips, a warmth spreading through her chest, a connection to that power that she couldn't deny. But werewolves, they're not real, she insisted, clinging to the last vestiges of her rational mind. They're creatures of myth, of legend. Kalen took another step closer, this time without causing her to flinch. He reached out a hand, not touching her, but holding it close enough for her to feel the warmth radiating from his skin. The scent of him, that wild, intoxicating scent, filled her senses, clouding her thoughts. "Look at me, Lasara," he said, his voice a low murmur. "Look into my eyes. Do you see a monster? Do you see a creature of myth?" She hesitated, then slowly raised her gaze to meet his. She saw the golden light, the intensity, the depth. But she also saw something else. A sadness, a weariness, a loneliness that mirrored her own. She saw a soul that had endured centuries of pain, of loss, of waiting. And in that moment, a flicker of understanding ignited within her. A terrifying, exhilarating understanding. She didn't know how, she didn't know why, but she knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that he was telling the truth. The Holophong were real. Werewolves were real. And she was somehow connected to them. A wave of dizziness washed over her, and she swayed slightly. Kalen reached out, his hand gently but firmly grasping her arm, steadying her. His touch was electric, sending a jolt of energy through her body, a sensation that was both terrifying and strangely comforting. "Easy," he murmured, his voice close to her ear. "It will take time to adjust, to understand, but I will be here to guide you, to help you remember." Remember? Remember what? The forgotten war? The ancient magic? Her own hidden power? The questions swirled in her mind, a chaotic maelstrom of fear and confusion. But amidst the chaos, one thought stood out, clear and undeniable. Her life, as she knew it, was irrevocably changed. She was no longer just Lasara Rathmore, the quiet widow of Oakhaven. She was something more. And her journey, guided by this enigmatic, golden-eyed stranger, had just begun. The villagers remained frozen, silent witnesses to this unfolding drama, their eyes reflecting the blue flames and the dawning realization that the world they thought they knew was far more complex and far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. Chapter 3. The Golden-Eyed Stranger. Kalen led her away from the stunned villagers, away from the unnerving blue flames, towards the edge of the woods. His hand remained on her arm, a steady, grounding presence amidst the swirling chaos of her thoughts. The touch, though firm, was surprisingly gentle, a silent reassurance that she was not alone in this bewildering new reality. As they walked, Lasara stole glances at him, studying his profile, the sharp angles of his face, the way his dark hair fell across his forehead, the subtle flecks of muscle beneath his worn leather jerkin. He moved with a quiet confidence, a natural grace that spoke of power held in check, of a wildness carefully contained. The scent of him, that intoxicating blend of musk and forest floor, filled her senses, stirring something deep within her, a primal awareness that both frightened and intrigued her. It was a scent that spoke of ancient forests and moonlit hunts, of a connection to the wild that she had never known, yet somehow recognized. Where are we going?" she asked, her voice still trembling slightly. "Somewhere safe," Kalen replied, his voice a low rumble. "Somewhere we can talk, away from prying eyes and fearful whispers." He led her along a narrow path, deeper into the woods. The trees, ancient oaks and towering pines, formed a dense canopy overhead, blocking out the moonlight and casting long, dancing shadows that played tricks on her eyes. The air grew cooler, the scent of pine needles and damp earth intensifying. Lasara felt a growing unease, a primal fear of the unknown. She had lived in Oakhaven her entire life, yet she had never ventured this deep into the woods. These were the woods of her grandmother's stories, the woods of the Holophong, the woods where danger lurked and magic thrived. but she also felt a strange sense of rightness. A feeling that she was returning to something, to a place she had known long ago, in a life she had forgotten. It was a confusing, contradictory sensation, a pull between fear and familiarity, between doubt and destiny. They reached a small clearing, bathed in the soft glow of the moon that managed to filter through the dense canopy. A small, moss-covered stone sat in the center of the clearing, looking ancient and weathered. Kalen gestured towards it. "Sit," he said, his voice gentle. "We have much to discuss." Lasara hesitated, then slowly lowered herself onto the stone. The cold seeped through her shawl, but she barely noticed. She was too focused on Kalen, on the intensity of his gaze, on the unsettling truth that he had revealed. He stood before her, his golden eyes reflecting the moonlight, his expression unreadable. He was a figure of myth, a creature of legend, yet he stood here, real and tangible, before her. A werewolf, a member of the Holophong. And he claimed that she was one of them, too. "You said the blood remembers," she said, her voice barely a whisper. What does that mean?" Kalen sighed, a sound that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. The Holophong were not just a clan of shapeshifters, Lasara. They were guardians, protectors of this land, of the balance between the human world and the otherworld. Otherworld? She repeated, the words sounding foreign and fantastical on her tongue. The realm of magic, of spirits, of creatures that humans have long forgotten or dismissed as myth, Kalen explained. The Holophong were bound to this land, to its magic, by an ancient pact. A pact that was forged generations ago, a pact that was broken. He paused, his gaze turning distant, as if lost in the memories of a long-forgotten past. The war, it was a war for survival. A war against those who sought to exploit the magic of this land, to corrupt the balance. The Holophong fought bravely, but they were betrayed. From within. Betrayal. The word hung in the air, heavy with the weight of pain and loss. Lasara felt a pang of sympathy for this enigmatic stranger, for the sorrow that etched itself on his face, for the burden of history that he clearly carried. "And what happened?" she asked softly. "The Holophong were scattered, defeated," Kalen said, his voice laced with bitterness. "Their power diminished, their connection to the land severed. The survivors went into hiding, blending in with the human population, their true nature concealed, their history forgotten. Or so we thought." He looked at her, his golden eyes intense. "But the blood remembers, Lasara. The magic remembers. And the torches they burned blue for you. That is a sign. A sign that the ancient pact is stirring, that the Holophong are awakening." "But why me?" she asked, her voice filled with confusion. "I'm just an old woman. I'm not a warrior, I'm not a guardian." A faint smile touched Kalen's lips, a smile that held a hint of admiration. "You are more than you think, Lasara. The blood of the Holophong is strong in you. You have a power within you, a power that has been dormant, waiting to be awakened. And I believe you are the key." "The key? To what? To restoring the Holophong? To reclaiming their lost power? To protecting the balance between the worlds?" The questions overwhelmed her, but beneath the fear and confusion, a flicker of something else ignited within her. A spark of excitement? Of purpose? She looked at Kalen, at this golden-eyed stranger who had turned her world upside down, who had revealed a truth that she was still struggling to comprehend. And she knew, with a certainty that defied logic, that her life was about to change, irrevocably. That she was about to embark on a journey that would test her strength, her courage, and her very soul. The night whispered secrets around them, the ancient trees bore silent witness, and Lasara felt the first stirrings of a destiny she never knew she had. Chapter 4. Whispers of the Ancient Pact. Kalen watched her, his golden eyes searching, assessing. He saw the fear, the confusion, the disbelief, but he also saw something else. A flicker of recognition, a spark of awakening, a hint of the power that lay dormant within her. He had waited centuries for this moment, for the return of the one who could restore the Holophong, the one who could heal the broken pact. And now, She was here, sitting before him, a seemingly ordinary woman with an extraordinary destiny. The key, he said, his voice low and resonant, answering her unspoken question, to understanding, to remembering, to unlocking the power that lies within you. He paused. But it is not a simple key, Lasara. It is a journey, a path fraught with danger, with challenges, with choices. She looked at him, her faded denim eyes filled with a mixture of apprehension and determination. He saw the resilience in her, the strength that had carried her through a life of loss and hardship. It was a strength that went beyond the physical, a strength of spirit, of character. "Tell me," she said, her voice firmer now, the trembling gone. "Tell me everything." And so he began to speak. He spoke of the ancient pact, a sacred agreement forged between the first Hollow Fong and the spirits of the land. A pact that granted them the power to shapeshift, to draw strength from the earth, to protect the balance between the worlds. He spoke of the golden age of the Hollow Fong, a time of peace and prosperity, when they lived in harmony with nature, when magic flowed freely through the land. He painted a vivid picture, using words that evoked images of moonlit hunts, of powerful rituals, of a deep connection to the earth and its creatures. He spoke of their reverence for the moon, their understanding of the cycles of nature, their ability to communicate with the spirits of the forest. Lasara listened, captivated, her mind struggling to reconcile these fantastical tales with the mundane reality of her life. But with each word Kaelin spoke, she felt a growing sense of recognition. A feeling that she was not just hearing a story, but remembering a truth, a forgotten part of herself. He then spoke of the betrayal, the treachery that had shattered the Hollow Fong, that had led to their downfall. He spoke of a rival clan, the Shadowclaw, who had coveted the Hollow Fang's power, who had sought to corrupt the magic of the land for their own selfish gain. He spoke of a devastating war, a battle that had raged for years, that had left the land scarred and the Hollow Fong broken. The Shadowclaw were led by a powerful sorcerer, Kaelin said, his voice laced with bitterness. He used dark magic, twisted the ancient pact to his own ends. He created a curse that severed the Hollow Fang's connection to the land, that weakened their ability to shapeshift, that scattered them to the winds. A curse. The word sent a chill down Lasara's spine. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her, whispers of a dark magic, of a vengeful sorcerer, of a curse that had plagued the Hollow Fong for generations. "And the torches?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "The blue flames, what do they mean?" "The blue flames are a sign," Kaelin explained. "A sign that the curse is weakening, that the ancient pact is stirring. And they burn blue for you, Lasara, because you are the descendant. The one who carries the blood of the first Hollow Fong, the one who has the power to break the curse. The descendant." The weight of those words settled upon her, heavy and profound. She, Lasara Rathmore, the quiet widow of Oakhaven, was the key to breaking a centuries-old curse, to restoring a lost kingdom, to saving a people she had only just learned existed. But how? She asked, her voice filled with doubt. "I don't know anything about magic, about shape-shifting." You are not just anything, Lasara," Kaelin interrupted, his voice firm. "You are a Hollow Fong, and you will learn. I will teach you." He reached out and took her hand, his touch sending a jolt of energy through her. His skin was warm, his grip strong and reassuring. She looked at their joined hands, his large, calloused hand enveloping her smaller, wrinkled one. It was a symbol of their connection, of the bond that was forming between them, a bond that transcended their vastly different worlds. "The first step," he said, his golden eyes holding hers, "is to awaken your connection to the land, to feel the magic that flows through it, to hear the whispers of the ancient pact." He closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. When he opened them, they seemed to glow even brighter, radiating an otherworldly power. He began to chant, his voice low and melodic, the words ancient and unfamiliar, yet somehow resonating deep within Lasara's soul. She felt a tingling sensation in her fingertips, a warmth spreading through her chest. The air around them seemed to shimmer, to vibrate with an unseen energy. She closed her eyes, focusing on the sound of Kalen's voice, on the feeling of his hand in hers, on the scent of the earth and the trees around them. And then she heard it, a faint whisper, carried on the wind, a voice that seemed to come from the very heart of the forest. It was a voice that spoke of ancient power, of forgotten magic, of a destiny waiting to be fulfilled. It was a voice that spoke to her. The whisper grew stronger, clearer, until it formed a single, distinct word, echoing in her mind, in her soul. Awaken. Chapter 5. The Mark of the Holophong. The word echoed in her mind. Awaken, a command, an invitation, a promise. Lysara opened her eyes, her gaze drawn to the moon, which hung full and luminous in the night sky, casting a silvery glow over the clearing. She felt a strange pull, a connection to the celestial body, a feeling she had never experienced before. Kalen continued to chant, his voice weaving a tapestry of ancient words, of power and magic. The air around them crackled with energy. The scent of the forest intensified, and Lysara felt a tingling sensation spread through her entire body, starting from her fingertips and toes, and converging in the center of her chest. Focus, Lysara, Kalen said, his voice a low murmur, his hand tightening around hers. Feel the energy. Feel the connection to the land. Feel the wolf. The wolf. The word resonated deep within her, stirring something primal, something instinctual. She closed her eyes again, trying to follow Kalen's instructions, trying to make sense of the swirling emotions and sensations that were coursing through her. She imagined the wolf, the creature of myth and legend, the symbol of the Holophong. She pictured its sleek fur, its piercing eyes, its powerful muscles, its untamed spirit. She imagined running through the forest, feeling the wind in her fur, the earth beneath her paws, the freedom of the wild. And then she felt it. A shift, a change, a subtle alteration within her own body. It started as a tingling in her bones, a warmth spreading through her muscles, a heightened awareness of her senses. The scent of the forest became sharper, more distinct, the sounds of the night amplified, the moonlight seeming to penetrate her very skin. She gasped, her eyes flying open. She looked at her hands, expecting to see something different. Claws? Fur? But they remained unchanged, still the hands of an old woman, wrinkled and weathered. Kalen stopped chanting, his golden eyes watching her intently. What do you feel? He asked, his voice soft. I don't know, she stammered, her voice filled with confusion. I felt something. A shift, a change, but I don't see anything different. Kalen smiled, a knowing smile that hinted at secrets yet to be revealed. The change is not always visible, Lysara. Not at first. It is a transformation of the spirit, of the soul. A connection to your inner wolf. He released her hand and took a step back, gesturing towards her left shoulder. Look, he said. Lysara hesitated, then slowly pulled back the sleeve of her dress, exposing her shoulder. She gasped. There, on her skin, where there had been nothing before, was a mark. A faint, silvery mark, shaped like a wolf's paw, surrounded by a circle of intricate, swirling lines. It was the mark of the Holophong. The mark seemed to shimmer in the moonlight, pulsing with a faint, inner light. Lysara touched it gently, her fingertips tracing the outline of the paw, the intricate details of the design. It felt warm, alive, a part of her. It's beautiful, she whispered, her voice filled with awe. It is a symbol of your heritage, Lysara, Kalen said. A sign of your connection to the Holophong, to the ancient pact, to the power that lies within you. The power. The word sent a shiver of excitement and fear down her spine. She, Lysara Rathmore, the quiet widow of Oakhaven, possessed a power she had never imagined, a power that was now awakening within her. What do I do now? She asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Now, Kalen said, his golden eyes holding hers. We begin your training. We learn to control the power, to harness the wolf, to prepare. Prepare. For what? For the challenges that lay ahead? For the dangers that lurked in the shadows? For the war that was brewing, the war that she was now a part of, whether she wanted to be or not. She looked at the mark of the Holophong, at the symbol of her newfound identity, of her destiny. She felt a surge of determination, a resolve to face whatever lay ahead, to embrace her heritage, to unlock the power within her. "I'm ready," she said, her voice firm, her gaze steady. Kalen smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes, a smile that held a hint of relief. He had found her, the descendant, the one who could restore the Holophong. And she was ready. He nodded. "Then let us begin," he said. He stepped closer, his presence both comforting and intimidating. He reached out and gently touched the mark of the Holophong, his fingertips tracing the outline of the wolf's paw. Lasara felt a jolt of energy, a surge of power, a connection to Kalen that was both physical and spiritual. The moon bathed them in its silvery light. The ancient trees stood as silent witnesses, and Lasara felt the first stirrings of her transformation, the awakening of her inner wolf, the beginning of her journey into a world of magic, of danger, and of destiny. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying with it the ancient call of the Holophong, a call that resonated deep within her soul, a call that she could no longer ignore. Chapter 6. Beneath the Weeping Willows. The training began under the cloak of night, hidden from the prying eyes of the village. Kalen chose locations deep within the woods, places where the veil between the human world and the other world was thin, where the magic of the land was strongest. He started with the basics, teaching Lasara to connect with the earth, to feel its energy, to draw strength from its ancient power. He had her stand barefoot on the moss-covered ground, her arms outstretched, her face turned towards the moon. He instructed her to breathe deeply, to clear her mind, to focus on the rhythm of her own heartbeat, on the pulse of the earth beneath her feet. It was difficult at first. Lasara's mind, accustomed to the mundane routines of her life, struggled to quiet itself, to let go of the worries and anxieties that had plagued her for years. She found herself distracted by the sounds of the night, by the rustling of leaves, by the hooting of owls, by the distant howling of something else. But Kalen was patient, guiding her with gentle words, with subtle corrections, with the unwavering support of his presence. He taught her to listen to the whispers of the wind, to feel the energy of the trees, to sense the presence of the spirits that inhabited the forest. He showed her how to draw power from the moon, how to harness its energy, how to let it flow through her body, strengthening her, empowering her. He explained that the moon was the source of their shape-shifting abilities, the celestial body that governed their connection to the wolf. Slowly, gradually, Lasara began to feel it. A tingling sensation in her fingertips, a warmth spreading through her chest, a heightened awareness of her senses. She began to understand what Kalen meant by the connection to the land, by the feeling of the magic that flowed through it. One night, they stood beneath a grove of ancient weeping willows, their branches draped like curtains around them, creating a secluded, almost sacred space. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the sweet fragrance of willow blossoms. A small stream gurgled nearby, its waters reflecting the moonlight, creating a shimmering, ethereal glow. Kalen had been teaching Lasara about the wolf, about its instincts, its senses, its connection to the wild. He explained that the shape-shifting ability was not just a physical transformation, but a merging of the human and wolf spirits, a blending of their consciousness, a sharing of their power. "The wolf is not a separate entity, Lasara," he said, his voice low and resonant. "It is a part of you. It is your inner self, your wild self, your true self." He had her close her eyes and visualize the wolf, to imagine its form, its movements, its power. He encouraged her to embrace its instincts, to let go of her human inhibitions, to surrender to the wildness within. Lasara struggled. She had lived a life of restraint, of control, of suppressing her emotions. The idea of letting go, of embracing her wild side, was terrifying. I can't," she said, her voice trembling.
"I'm afraid."
Kalen placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch warm and reassuring. "Fear is natural, Lasara," he said gently. "But it is also a barrier. You must learn to overcome it. To trust your instincts. To trust the wolf." He stepped closer, his golden eyes holding hers. He reached out and gently touched the mark of the hollow fang on her shoulder, his fingertips tracing the outline of the wolf's paw. Lasara felt a jolt of energy, a surge of power, a connection to Kalen that was both physical and spiritual. "Close your eyes," he murmured, "and listen. Listen to the wolf. Listen to me." She closed her eyes, focusing on the sound of Kalen's voice, on the feeling of his touch, on the scent of him, that intoxicating blend of musk and forest floor. She heard the whisper of the wind through the willow branches, the gurgling of the stream, the distant howling of a wolf. And then she heard it. A different voice, a voice within her own mind, a voice that was both familiar and foreign. It was a low growl, a soft whimper, a primal call. It was the voice of her wolf. She gasped, her eyes flying open. She looked at Kalen, her expression filled with a mixture of fear and excitement. I heard it," she whispered. "I heard the wolf." Kalen smiled, a knowing smile. "Yes," he said. "You did." He stepped back, giving her space. "Now," he said, his voice firm. "Embrace it. Let it guide you. Let it transform you." Lasara hesitated. She looked at her hands, at her arms, at her body. She felt the tingling sensation, the warmth spreading through her, the heightened awareness of her senses. She felt the presence of the wolf within her, a powerful, primal force, waiting to be unleashed. The moonlight bathed the clearing in an ethereal light, creating a scene of profound transition. She looked once more at the whispering willows, her heart pounding not with fear, but with a rising anticipation. A strange sense of inevitability washed over her. Chapter 7. A Dance with Shadows. The transformation was intense. It wasn't the instantaneous, magical shift depicted in folklore, but a gradual, agonizing, yet exhilarating process. Lasara felt her bones shift, her muscles stretch, her skin tingle as if 1,000 tiny needles were pricking her from the inside out. A wave of heat washed over her, followed by a chilling cold that made her teeth chatter. She cried out, a strangled gasp that was part human, part something else. Kalen was there, his presence a steady anchor amidst the swirling chaos of her transformation. He held her hand, his grip firm and reassuring, his golden eyes filled with a mixture of concern and encouragement. "Breathe, Lasara," he murmured, his voice a low, calming presence amidst the storm raging within her. "Focus on the wolf. Let it guide you. Let it become you." She tried, she really did. But the pain was overwhelming, the sensations unfamiliar and terrifying. She felt a primal urge to fight, to resist, to scream, to run. But she also felt something else. A pull, a connection to something ancient and powerful, a sense of belonging. She closed her eyes, focusing on Kalen's voice, on the feeling of his hand in hers, on the scent of him, that intoxicating blend of musk and forest floor. She visualized the wolf, its sleek fur, its piercing eyes, its powerful muscles, its untamed spirit. She imagined running through the forest, feeling the wind in her fur, the earth beneath her paws, the freedom of the wild. And slowly, gradually, the pain began to subside. The shifting and stretching became less violent, less agonizing. The heat and cold gave way to a warmth, a comfortable, empowering warmth. She felt her senses heighten, her awareness expand, her connection to the world around her deepen. She opened her eyes, and the world looked different. The moonlight seemed brighter, the colors more vivid, the sounds of the night sharper, more distinct. She could smell the damp earth, the pine needles, the sweet fragrance of willow blossoms, with an intensity she had never experienced before. She could hear the rustling of leaves, the hooting of owls, the distant howling of wolves. She looked at her hands, and they were no longer the hands of an old woman. They were paws. Large, powerful paws, covered in thick, silvery fur, with sharp, retractable claws. She gasped, a sound that was part growl, part human exclamation. She looked at her arms, and they were covered in the same silvery fur. She felt her legs, and they were stronger, more muscular, shaped for running, for hunting, for freedom. She was a wolf. A magnificent, powerful, silvery gray wolf, with eyes that glowed with a faint, golden light. She stood on all fours, feeling the earth beneath her paws, the wind ruffling her fur, the power surging through her veins. She looked at Kalen, and he was no longer human. He was a wolf, too. A massive, black wolf, with eyes that glowed with the same intense, golden light as hers, but even brighter, even more powerful. He was magnificent, terrifying, and beautiful. He lowered his head, a gesture of respect, of acknowledgement. He let out a soft growl, a rumble that vibrated deep within her chest. It was a greeting, an invitation, a welcome. Lasara responded, instinctively, with a growl of her own. It was a sound that came from deep within her, a primal expression of her newfound identity, of her connection to the wolf, to Kalen, to the Holophong. He turned and began to run, his powerful body moving with a grace and speed that was breathtaking. Lasara hesitated for a moment, then followed, her own body responding instinctively to the call of the wild. They ran through the forest, their paws barely touching the ground, their bodies moving in perfect synchronicity. The wind whipped through their fur, the moonlight dappled their path, the scent of the earth and the trees filled their senses. It was exhilarating, liberating, terrifying, and magical. Lasara felt a sense of freedom she had never known, a connection to the wild that she had never imagined. She felt the power of the wolf coursing through her veins, the thrill of the hunt, the joy of the run. They ran for hours, exploring the hidden paths of the forest, their senses heightened, their instincts sharp. They encountered other creatures of the night, deer and rabbits, owls and foxes, but they did not hunt. Tonight they were simply running free. As the first rays of dawn began to paint the sky with hues of pink and orange, they returned to the clearing beneath the weeping willows. They shifted back, the transformation as intense as the first, but less painful, less frightening. Lasara stood there, naked and shivering, her body covered in a fine sheen of sweat. She looked at Kalen, who was also naked, his body lean and muscular, his golden eyes filled with a warmth that made her heart flutter. He reached out and gently wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. His skin was warm against hers, his scent enveloping her, his presence comforting and arousing. "You did it, Lasara," he murmured, his voice close to her ear. "You embraced the wolf. You transformed." She leaned into him, her body trembling with exhaustion and elation. She felt a connection to him that went beyond anything she had ever experienced, a bond forged in magic, in shared transformation, in destiny. It was at this precise moment, standing in his arms under a pastel dawn sky, that Lasara understood just how dramatically her life had changed. The ordinary, familiar world was gone, replaced by this vibrant, dangerous, and intensely alive reality. Chapter 8. The Price of Defiance. The days that followed were a whirlwind of training and discovery. Lasara learned to control her shifts, to transition between human and wolf form with increasing ease and grace. She discovered the nuances of her heightened senses, the power of her enhanced strength and speed, the thrill of the hunt, the freedom of the run. Kalen was her constant guide, her teacher, her protector, and something more. The bond between them deepened with each passing day, forged in shared experiences, in mutual respect, in a growing affection that neither of them could deny. They spent hours exploring the forest, learning its secrets, discovering its hidden paths, connecting with its ancient magic. Kalen taught Lasara about the history of the Holophong, about their traditions, their rituals, their responsibilities. He shared stories of his own past, of his centuries of life, of the battles he had fought, of the losses he had endured. Lasara, in turn, shared stories of her own life, of her marriage to Thomas, of her love for her granddaughter, Alara, of the quiet joys and sorrows of her ordinary, human existence. She spoke of her fears, her doubts, her uncertainties about the future, about the role she was expected to play in the restoration of the Hollow Fong. Kaylin listened patiently, offering words of comfort, of encouragement, of support. He never pressured her, never demanded more than she was ready to give. He respected her boundaries, her fears, her humanity. But the idyllic world they had created within the hidden depths of the forest could not last forever. The whispers of the ancient pact were growing louder, the curse was weakening, and the Shadow Claw, their ancient enemies, were stirring. One evening, as they were returning from a training session, they were ambushed. A group of figures emerged from the shadows, their faces hidden behind dark masks, their bodies clad in black leather, their weapons drawn. Shadow Claw, Kaylin hissed, his voice a low growl, his body tensing, preparing for a fight. Lasara felt a surge of fear, but also a surge of adrenaline. She had trained for this. She had prepared for this. She was ready. She shifted, transforming into her wolf form, her silvery fur gleaming in the moonlight, her golden eyes glowing with a fierce determination. Kaylin shifted beside her, his massive black form a terrifying and reassuring presence. The fight was brutal and swift. The Shadow Claw were skilled warriors, trained in the dark arts, wielding weapons imbued with magic. But Kaylin and Lasara were faster, stronger, their connection to the land giving them an advantage. They fought as one, their movements synchronized, their instincts sharp, their attacks coordinated. Lasara felt the power of the wolf coursing through her veins, the thrill of the battle, the primal urge to protect her mate. They managed to defeat the Shadow Claw, driving them back into the shadows, but not without cost. Kaylin was injured, a deep gash on his shoulder, bleeding profusely. Lasara shifted back, her human form trembling with exhaustion and fear. She rushed to Kaylin's side, her hands hovering over his wound, unsure of what to do. I don't know how to heal you, she stammered, her voice filled with panic. Kaylin looked at her, his golden eyes filled with pain, but also with love. It's all right, Lasara, he said, his voice weak. It's not fatal. He reached out and gently touched her cheek, his fingers tracing the line of her jaw. You are magnificent, he whispered. A true Hollow Fong. His words warmed her heart, but they did not ease her fear. She needed to get him help. She needed to find a way to heal him. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her, whispers of a hidden spring, deep within the forest, with waters that possessed healing properties. It was a long shot, a legend, a myth, but she had nothing else. I know a place, she said, her voice filled with a desperate hope. A spring with healing waters. It's far, but I can carry you. She shifted back into her wolf form, her strong body capable of carrying Kaylin's weight. He protested, but she ignored him, gently nudging him onto her back, securing him with her powerful jaws. She ran through the forest, her paws pounding the earth, her heart pounding with fear and determination. She followed the faint memory of her grandmother's stories, guided by her instincts, by her connection to the land, by her love for Kaylin. The journey was long and arduous, the terrain treacherous, the night filled with dangers. But Lasara did not falter. She ran with a strength she never knew she possessed, fueled by adrenaline, by desperation, by hope. She finally reached the spring, a hidden oasis nestled deep within a grove of ancient trees. The water shimmered in the moonlight, reflecting the stars, radiating a faint, ethereal glow. She gently lowered Kaylin to the ground, shifting back into her human form. She helped him drink from the spring, then bathed his wound with the cool, refreshing water. She watched, anxiously, as the water seemed to work its magic, the bleeding slowing, the wound closing, the pain in Kaylin's eyes easing. She stayed with him throughout the night, tending to his wounds, whispering words of comfort, of encouragement, of love. As the first rays of dawn touched the sky, Kaylin's breathing became more regular, his color returned, and he drifted into a peaceful sleep. Lasara curled up beside him, exhausted but relieved, her heart filled with gratitude and a growing sense of awe. The attack had been a harsh reminder of the dangers they faced, of the price of defiance, of the war that was looming. But it had also shown her the strength of their bond, the power of their connection, the depth of their love. Chapter 9. Scars of the Past. Kalen awoke to the gentle warmth of the morning sun filtering through the leaves. He felt weak, but the searing pain in his shoulder had subsided, replaced by a dull ache. He looked around, his golden eyes adjusting to the light, and saw Lasara curled up beside him, her silver hair spread across the moss-covered ground, her face peaceful in sleep. He remembered the attack, the shadow claw, the brutal fight, the fear he had felt for Lasara's safety. He remembered her courage, her strength, her determination to save him. He remembered the long, arduous journey to the spring, the feeling of her powerful body carrying him, the sound of her frantic heartbeat echoing his own. He reached out and gently touched her cheek, his fingers tracing the delicate lines of her face. She stirred, her eyes fluttering open, her gaze meeting his. "Kalen," she whispered, her voice filled with relief. "You're awake." She sat up, her hands hovering over his shoulder, checking his wound. He saw the concern in her eyes, the worry etched on her face. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Better," he replied, his voice hoarse. "Much better. Thanks to you." He looked at the spring, at the shimmering water, at the ancient trees that surrounded it. "This place, it's magical," he said. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about it," Lasara said. "She said it was a place of healing, a place of power." "She was right," Kalen said. He sat up, wincing slightly, but the pain was manageable. He looked at his shoulder and saw that the wound was almost completely healed, leaving only a faint, silvery scar. He looked at Lasara, at her tired but relieved face, at the love and concern that shone in her eyes. He felt a surge of gratitude, of affection, of something deeper. "You saved my life, Lasara," he said, his voice filled with emotion. She smiled, a shy, hesitant smile. "You would have done the same for me," she said. "Yes," he said. "I would." He reached out and took her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. He felt the warmth of her skin, the strength of her grip, the connection that bound them together. They sat in silence for a while, simply enjoying each other's presence, the peace of the morning, the magic of the spring. But the memory of the attack, of the shadow claw, of the looming war, hung over them, a dark cloud on the horizon. "They'll be back," Kalen said, breaking the silence. "The shadow claw. They won't give up so easily." Lasara nodded, her expression serious. "I know," she said. "We need to be prepared." "We need to find the others," Kalen said. "The other descendants of the Holophong. We need to unite them, to train them, to fight." "But where do we find them?" Lasara asked. "How do we know who they are?" Kalen sighed. "That's the difficult part," he said. "They're scattered, hidden, living among the humans, unaware of their heritage, of their power. There has to be a sign, some connection among all of you." "There is a way," Kalen said, his gaze turning distant, as if lost in the memories of the past. "The ancient pact, it created a bond between all the Holophong. A soul bond. A connection that transcends time and space." "A soul bond?" Lasara repeated, the words sounding both intriguing and frightening. "It's a deep connection," Kalen explained. "A feeling of recognition. A pull, a knowing. It's faint, almost imperceptible, after centuries of separation, but it's still there." He looked at her, his golden eyes intense. "I felt it with you, Lasara," he said. "The moment I saw you in the village square, I felt the pull, the connection, the bond." Lasara felt a shiver run down her spine. She remembered that moment, the feeling of being watched, the prickling awareness that something was profoundly off. She remembered the way Kalen had looked at her, the intensity of his gaze, the recognition in his eyes. "And you think you can feel it with the others?" she asked. "I can try," Kalen said. "But it will take time. And it will be dangerous. The Shadowclaw are searching for them, too. They want to eliminate the descendants of the Holophong, to ensure that the curse remains unbroken, that their power remains supreme. He paused, his expression grim. They have their own ways of finding them, he said. Dark magic, rituals, torture. Torture. The word sent a chill through Lasara. She thought of Alara, of her vibrant, fearless granddaughter, living in the village, unaware of the danger that lurked in the shadows, of the war that was brewing, of her own heritage. We need to protect them, she said, her voice filled with a fierce determination. We need to find them before the Shadow Claw do. Kayla nodded. We will, he said. Together. He stood up, his body still aching, but his spirit renewed. He looked at Lasara, at her determined face, at the strength that shone in her eyes, at the love that he felt for her. He reached out and gently cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs tracing the lines of her cheekbones. We will face this together, Lasara, he said, his voice soft. Whatever comes. He leaned down and kissed her, a gentle, tender kiss that spoke of gratitude, of affection, of a love that was deepening with each passing day, a love that was forged in the crucible of danger and destiny. The scars of the past, both his and hers, were a constant reminder of the battles fought and the losses endured, but they also served as a testament to their resilience, their strength, and their unwavering commitment to each other and to the future of the Hollow Fong. Chapter 10. The Moonlit Revelation. The kiss lingered, a silent promise, a shared understanding of the challenges that lay ahead. They broke apart, their eyes locked, a mixture of love, determination, and a hint of fear reflected in their gaze. We should return to the village, Lasara said, her voice slightly breathless. Alara will be worried. Kalen nodded, his expression turning serious. We need to be careful, he said. The Shadow Claw may be watching. They may know about you. Lasara felt a shiver of apprehension. The thought of Alara being in danger, of her being targeted by the Shadow Claw, filled her with a primal fear. I'll protect her, she said, her voice fierce. I won't let them harm her. Kalen smiled, a faint, almost imperceptible smile. I know you will, he said, but we need a plan. We can't just rush in blindly. They spent the rest of the day planning, strategizing, preparing for their return to Oakhaven. They decided to approach the village under the cover of darkness, to observe, to assess the situation before revealing themselves. Kalen warned Lasara about the dangers of exposing her true nature, of revealing her connection to the Hollow Fong. The villagers they may not understand, he said. They may be afraid. They may turn against you. Lasara knew he was right. The villagers of Oakhaven were simple folk, accustomed to a quiet, peaceful life. The revelation of werewolves, of ancient pacts, of looming wars, would likely be met with fear, with disbelief, with rejection. But she also knew that she couldn't hide forever. She had a responsibility, a duty, to protect her granddaughter, to protect her village, to fight for the future of the Hollow Fong. As night fell, they set off, their bodies moving with a quiet grace, their senses heightened, their hearts pounding with a mixture of anticipation and dread. They approached the village cautiously, staying in the shadows, observing the familiar sights and sounds. The village seemed normal. The torches burned with a warm, yellow light, not the eerie blue of the harvest festival. The villagers were going about their evening routines, chatting, laughing, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. But Lasara felt a subtle unease, a prickling awareness that something was off. She couldn't quite place it, but she sensed a hidden tension, a suppressed fear, a watchfulness. They found a secluded spot overlooking the village square, hidden behind a thicket of bushes. Kalen used his enhanced senses to scan the area, searching for any sign of the Shadow Claw, for any indication of danger. I don't see them, he whispered. But that doesn't mean they're not here. They could be disguised, blending in with the villagers. Lasara nodded, her gaze fixed on Alara's house, a small, cozy cottage at the edge of the square. She saw a light flickering in the window, a sign that her granddaughter was home. She felt a surge of longing, a desperate desire to see her, to hold her, to tell her the truth. But she knew she couldn't. Not yet. It was too dangerous. We need to wait, Kalen said, his voice low and firm. We need to be patient. We need to observe. They waited for hours, watching the village, listening to the sounds of the night, their senses on high alert. The moon rose high in the sky, casting a silvery glow over the scene, illuminating the familiar landscape with an ethereal light. And then it happened. Lysara felt a sudden, sharp pain in her chest, a jolt of energy that made her gasp. She clutched her chest, her eyes widening in alarm. What is it? Kalen asked, his voice filled with concern. What's wrong? I don't know, she stammered. I felt something. A pull, a connection. She looked around, her gaze searching, trying to identify the source of the sensation. And then she saw her. Alara. Her granddaughter was standing in the village square, talking to a young man, a stranger, someone Lysara had never seen before. He was tall, dark-haired, with a handsome face and a charming smile. But there was something about him that made Lysara's skin crawl. Something in his eyes, something in his posture, something in the way he looked at Alara. It was a look of possession, of control. And then Lysara saw it. A faint, almost imperceptible shimmer around the young man, a subtle distortion of the air, a glimpse of something else. Something dark. Something inhuman. He's one of them, she whispered, her voice filled with horror. He's Shadowclaw. Kalen followed her gaze, his eyes narrowing, his body tensing. He saw it too. The subtle signs, the hidden clues, the truth. Damn it, he hissed. They're already here. They've infiltrated the village. Lysara felt a surge of rage, of protectiveness, of determination. She wouldn't let them harm Alara. She wouldn't let them win. She started to move, to rush into the square, to confront the Shadowclaw, to save her granddaughter. But Kalen stopped her, his hand on her arm, his grip firm. Wait, he said, his voice urgent. We need a plan. We can't just attack. We need to be strategic. Lysara knew he was right, but her heart was pounding, her instincts screaming at her to act, to protect, to fight. She looked at Alara, at her innocent face, at her trusting smile, at the danger that lurked in the shadows, waiting to strike. And then she saw it. A faint, silvery mark on Alara's wrist, hidden beneath the sleeve of her dress. A mark that was identical to her own. The mark of the Holophong. Lysara gasped, her eyes widening in disbelief. Alara, she was one of them. She was a descendant of the Holophong. She possessed the same power, the same destiny. The moon, hanging full and bright above them, seemed to pulse with a sudden, knowing energy. The revelation washed over Lysara with the force of a tidal wave, a mixture of shock, relief, and a profound sense of inevitability. Chapter 11. The Gathering Storm. The realization that Alara carried the mark of the Holophong, that she was a descendant, a part of this ancient lineage, changed everything. It heightened the stakes, intensified the danger, but also strengthened Lysara's resolve. She was not just fighting for herself, for Kalen, for the future of the Holophong. She was fighting for her family, for her blood, for the continuation of her line. Kalen saw the shock, the disbelief, the understanding in Lysara's eyes. He knew what she had seen, what she had realized. He felt a surge of hope. Alara's presence, her power, could be a significant advantage in the fight against the Shadowclaw. She's one of us, Lysara whispered, her voice filled with awe and a hint of fear. Alara, she's a Holophong. We need to get to her, Kalen said, his voice urgent. Before they harm her. But they couldn't simply rush into the square, confront the Shadowclaw, reveal their true nature to Alara and the entire village. They needed a plan, a subtle approach, a way to get Alara alone, to explain the situation, to awaken her power. They watched as the young man, the disguised Shadowclaw, led Alara away from the square, towards the edge of the village, towards the woods. Lysara felt a surge of panic. They were running out of time. We have to follow them, she said, her voice desperate. We have to stop them. Kalen nodded. But carefully, he said. We don't know how many of them are here. We don't know what their plan is." They moved quickly and silently, following the pair, staying in the shadows, using their enhanced senses to track their movements. The moon provided ample light, illuminating the path, revealing the danger that lurked ahead. They saw the young man lead Alara to a small, secluded clearing, a place hidden from the view of the village. Lasara felt a growing unease, a sense of foreboding. This was a trap, she was sure of it. They hid behind a thicket of bushes, watching, listening, waiting for the right moment to intervene. They saw the young man turn to Alara, his charming smile replaced by a sinister sneer. "You're coming with me," he said, his voice harsh. "We have plans for you." Alara looked confused, frightened, but also defiant. "I don't know who you are," she said, her voice trembling. "But I'm not going anywhere with you." The young man laughed, a cruel, mocking sound. "You don't have a choice," he said. He reached out and grabbed her arm, his grip tight, his fingers digging into her skin. Lasara couldn't wait any longer. She felt a surge of rage, of protectiveness, of power. She shifted, transforming into her wolf form, her silvery fur gleaming in the moonlight, her golden eyes glowing with a fierce determination. Kalen shifted beside her, his massive black form a terrifying and reassuring presence. They burst from the bushes, their growls echoing through the clearing, their presence shattering the illusion of normalcy, of safety. The young man, the Shadowclaw, turned, his eyes widening in surprise, in fear. He released Alara, his hand instinctively reaching for a weapon hidden beneath his cloak. Alara gasped, her eyes widening in shock, in disbelief, in terror. She stared at Lasara, at the magnificent, silvery gray wolf, at the creature of myth and legend, at the truth. "Grandmother?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Lasara let out a soft whimper, a sound of reassurance, of recognition. She nudged Alara gently, urging her to move away from the Shadowclaw, towards safety. The young man recovered from his surprise, his fear replaced by a cold determination. He drew his weapon, a long, curved dagger, its blade shimmering with a dark, unholy light. "You cannot stop us," he hissed. "The Shadowclaw will rise again. The curse will remain unbroken." Kalen stepped forward, his massive form blocking the young man's path, his golden eyes glowing with a fierce intensity. "The curse will be broken," he growled. "The Hollow Fawn will return." The fight was inevitable. The Shadowclaw attacked, his dagger flashing in the moonlight, his movements swift and deadly. Kalen met his attack, his powerful jaws snapping, his claws tearing, his body a whirlwind of fury. Lasara circled, protecting Alara, her senses on high alert, searching for any sign of other Shadowclaw, for any other danger. She saw Alara's fear, her confusion, her disbelief. But she also saw something else. A flicker of recognition, a spark of awakening, a hint of the power that lay dormant within her. The battle raged, the clearing echoing with the sounds of growls, of snarls, of clashing steel. The air was thick with the scent of blood, of sweat, of magic. The storm that had been brewing for centuries was finally breaking, the ancient conflict between the Hollow Fawn and the Shadowclaw reigniting, the fate of the world hanging in the balance. Alara watched, transfixed, as the battle unfolded before her, realizing the life she knew was a lie, and her destiny was far grander and far more dangerous than she could ever have imagined. Chapter 12. Betrayal in the Blood. The fight was fierce, a whirlwind of fur, claws, and steel. Kalen, in his massive black wolf form, was a force of nature, his movements powerful and precise, his attacks relentless. The Shadowclaw, though skilled, was no match for Kalen's raw strength and experience. Lasara, in her silvery gray wolf form, stayed close to Alara, protecting her, guiding her, her senses on high alert. She saw the fear in Alara's eyes, the confusion, the disbelief. But she also saw something else. A flicker of recognition, a spark of awakening, a hint of the power that lay dormant within her. The Shadowclaw, realizing he was losing, let out a desperate cry, a signal, a call for reinforcements. Lasara felt a surge of dread. She knew they were outnumbered, outmatched. They needed to escape, to regroup, to prepare. But before they could react, before they could make their escape, more figures emerged from the shadows, their faces hidden behind dark masks, their bodies clad in black leather, their weapons drawn. More Shadowclaw. Lasara growled, a low, menacing sound, her body tensing, preparing for another fight. She knew they were surrounded, trapped. But she wouldn't give up. She would fight to the death to protect Alara, to protect Kaelin, to protect the future. And then she saw him. A figure emerged from the shadows, taller than the others, his presence commanding, his aura radiating a dark, sinister power. He wore a mask, like the others, but his eyes were familiar. Lasara felt a jolt of recognition, a pang of betrayal. She knew those eyes. She had seen them before in the village in the mirror. The figure removed his mask, revealing his face. It was Thomas, Lasara's husband, Alara's grandfather, the man she had loved, the man she had mourned, the man she had believed to be dead. He was alive.
And he was Shadowclaw.
Lasara gasped, a sound of shock, of disbelief, of heartbreak. She felt a wave of dizziness, her legs weakening, her world shattering. Thomas? She whispered, her voice barely audible, her human form flickering, threatening to reappear. He smiled, a cold, cruel smile that sent shivers down her spine. Hello, Lasara, he said, his voice devoid of any warmth, any affection, any recognition. Surprised to see me? Alara stared at him, her eyes wide with horror, with confusion, with betrayal. Grandfather? She whispered, her voice trembling. What is happening? Thomas ignored her, his gaze fixed on Lasara. You were always so naive, he said, his voice laced with contempt. So easily fooled. You never suspected a thing. Lasara felt a surge of anger, of pain, of betrayal. She couldn't comprehend it, couldn't accept it. Thomas, her Thomas, a Shadowclaw? It was impossible, unthinkable, a nightmare. Why? She asked, her voice choked with emotion. Why, Thomas? Why would you do this? He laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. Power, Lasara, he said. Power is everything. The Shadowclaw, they offered me power. Immortality. A chance to rule. But you are dead, Lasara said, her voice trembling. I mourned you. A clever ruse, Thomas said, his smile widening. A necessary sacrifice. I had to disappear, to infiltrate the Holophong, to find the descendant. He looked at Alara, his eyes gleaming with a dark, sinister light. And I found her, he said. My granddaughter. The key to breaking the curse. The key to our victory. Lasara felt a surge of protectiveness, of rage. She stepped in front of Alara, shielding her, her body tensing, preparing to fight. You won't touch her, she growled, her voice fierce. I won't let you. Thomas laughed again. You can't stop me, Lasara, he said. You're weak. Old. You're no match for me. He raised his hand, and the other Shadowclaw stepped forward, their weapons drawn, surrounding Lasara, Kaelin, and Alara. Lasara knew they were trapped, outnumbered, outmatched. But she wouldn't surrender. She wouldn't give up. She would fight. For Alara. For Kaelin. For the future. She looked at Kaelin, his golden eyes meeting hers, a silent communication passing between them. They knew what they had to do. They had to fight. They had to survive. The clearing was suddenly filled with a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. The betrayal, so personal, so unexpected, had ripped through Lasara's heart, leaving her reeling, but beneath the pain, a steely resolve began to solidify. Chapter 13. The Forbidden Path. The standoff was broken by Thomas's chilling command. Take them, he ordered, his voice echoing through the clearing, devoid of any semblance of the man Lasara thought she had known. The Shadowclaw surged forward, their weapons glinting menacingly in the moonlight. Kaelin, still in his wolf form, roared a challenge, a primal sound that resonated with power and defiance. He met the attackers head-on, a whirlwind of claws and fangs, protecting Lysara and Alara with every fiber of his being. Lysara, though still reeling from the shock of Thomas's betrayal, shifted back into her wolf form, her silvery fur bristling with anger and determination. She fought alongside Kaelin, her movements swift and precise, her attacks fueled by a desperate need to protect her granddaughter, to avenge the years of deceit, to survive. Alara, however, remained frozen, her eyes wide with terror and confusion, her body trembling. She was caught between the two worlds, between the grandfather she had loved and the grandmother she was only just beginning to understand, between the reality she had known and the truth that was unfolding before her. Lysara saw her fear, her vulnerability, her indecision. She knew she had to get Alara out of there, to protect her from the Shadowclaw, from Thomas. "Alara," she called out, her voice a low growl, her eyes pleading.
"Run.
"Get away from here." Alara hesitated, her gaze flickering between Lysara and Thomas, her mind struggling to comprehend the situation, to make sense of the chaos. Thomas saw her hesitation, her vulnerability, her weakness. He smiled, a cold, cruel smile that sent shivers down Lysara's spine. "Don't listen to her, Alara," he said, his voice smooth and persuasive, a stark contrast to the harshness he had shown Lysara. "I'm your grandfather. I would never hurt you.
Come with me.
I'll protect you." Alara looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and trust. She had known him her entire life, had loved him, had believed in him. Lysara saw the doubt in her eyes, the flicker of hope, the temptation. She knew she had to act quickly, before Alara made a decision she would regret, before she was lost forever. "Alara, don't!" she cried out, her voice desperate. "He's lying.
He's one of them.
He's Shadowclaw." But it was too late. Alara, swayed by years of familiarity, by the ingrained trust in her grandfather, took a step towards Thomas, her hand outstretched, her eyes filled with a naive hope. Lysara felt a surge of despair, of heartbreak, of failure. She had lost her. Alara had chosen the wrong side. Kaelin saw her despair, her heartbreak, her defeat. He roared, a sound of anguish and rage, his attacks becoming even more ferocious, more desperate. But it was no use. The Shadowclaw were too many, too strong. They overwhelmed Kaelin, pinning him to the ground, their weapons at his throat. Thomas turned to Lysara, his smile triumphant. "It's over, Lysara," he said. "You've lost. Alara is ours. The curse will remain unbroken. The Shadowclaw will rule." Lysara felt a wave of dizziness, her legs weakening, her world crumbling. She had lost everything. Her husband, her granddaughter, her hope. But then she remembered. The ancient pact, the soul bond, the connection. She was not alone. There were others. Other descendants of the Holophong. Other wolves. She closed her eyes, focusing on the mark of the Holophong on her shoulder, on the power that lay dormant within her, on the connection to the land, to the other wolves. She sent out a call, a mental cry, a desperate plea for help. She reached out with her mind, her spirit, her soul, searching for the other descendants, for the other wolves, for anyone. And then she felt it, a faint response, a distant echo, a recognition. They were out there. They were listening. They were coming. She opened her eyes, her gaze fixed on Thomas, her expression hardening, her resolve returning. "It's not over," she said, her voice firm, her human form solidifying. "It's just beginning." She raised her hand, and the torches in the clearing, which had been burning with a normal, yellow light, suddenly flared, turning a vibrant, almost violent, blue. The wind whipped up, swirling around the clearing, carrying with it the scent of pine needles, of damp earth, of wolves. Thomas stared at her, his eyes widening in surprise, in fear. He knew what the blue flames meant. He knew what was coming. From the depths of the forest, they emerged. Wolves.
Dozens of them.
Their fur gleaming in the moonlight, their eyes glowing with an unearthly light, their growls echoing through the night. The descendants of the Hollow Fong had answered her call. They were here, and they were ready to fight. They took a path through the forest, one very few knew about. It winded and twisted, avoiding the regular patrols and heading toward a place Thomas had forbidden anyone to go. Chapter 14. The Heart's True North. The arrival of the other wolves changed the tide of the battle. The Shadowclaw, surprised and outnumbered, faltered, their confidence shattered, their attacks losing their ferocity. Kalen, seeing his chance, used his remaining strength to break free from his captors, his massive black form a whirlwind of fury, his golden eyes glowing with a renewed determination. Lysara, empowered by the presence of her kin, fought with a renewed vigor, her silvery gray fur bristling with power, her movements swift and precise. She moved among the other wolves, a leader, a beacon, a symbol of hope. But her heart ached for Alara, who stood frozen, watching the battle unfold, her eyes wide with terror and confusion, her body trembling. She was caught between two worlds, between the grandfather she had loved and the grandmother she was only just beginning to understand, between the lie she had lived and the truth she was now facing. Lysara knew she had to reach her, to break through the wall of fear and confusion, to awaken the wolf within her. But Thomas stood between them, his eyes filled with a cold determination, his hand gripping Alara's arm, holding her captive. "You can't have her, Lysara," he said, his voice harsh, his grip tightening on Alara's arm. "She's mine. She belongs to the Shadowclaw." Lysara growled, a low, menacing sound, her body tensing, preparing to attack. "She's not yours," she said, her voice fierce. "She's a Hollow Fong. She belongs with us." She lunged at Thomas, her claws extended, her fangs bared, her movements fueled by a desperate need to protect her granddaughter, to reclaim her. But Thomas was ready for her. He anticipated her attack, sidestepping her lunge, his hand still gripping Alara's arm, pulling her with him, using her as a shield. Lysara hesitated, her attack faltering, her heart pounding with fear. She couldn't risk harming Alara. She couldn't lose her again. Thomas smiled, a cruel, mocking smile. "You're weak, Lysara," he said. "You're too sentimental. You can't win." He raised his other hand, and the other Shadowclaw, seeing their leader's advantage, closed in, their weapons drawn, surrounding Lysara, Kalen, and the other wolves. Lysara knew they were trapped, outnumbered, outmatched. But she wouldn't give up. She wouldn't surrender. She would fight. For Alara. For Kalen. For the future. She looked at Alara, her eyes pleading, her heart aching. "Alara," she said, her voice soft, her human words cutting through the sounds of battle. "Please. You have to choose. You have to listen to your heart. You have to awaken." Alara stared at her, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear, confusion, and something else. A flicker of recognition, a spark of understanding, a hint of the power that lay dormant within her. She looked at Thomas, at his cold, cruel eyes, at his tight grip on her arm, at the darkness that surrounded him. And then, she looked at Lysara, at her warm, loving eyes, at her protective stance, at the light that emanated from her. And she knew who she was. She knew where she belonged. She knew what she had to do. She closed her eyes, focusing on the mark of the Hollow Fong on her wrist, on the power that lay dormant within her, on the connection to the land, to the other wolves, to Lysara. She felt a tingling sensation in her fingertips, a warmth spreading through her chest, a heightened awareness of her senses. She felt the presence of the wolf within her, a powerful, primal force, waiting to be unleashed. She opened her eyes, and they were no longer the eyes of a frightened, confused young woman. They were the eyes of a wolf, glowing with a faint, golden light, filled with a fierce determination, with a wildness that had been awakened. She let out a growl, a low, primal sound that echoed through the clearing, a sound that startled Thomas, that made the other Shadowclaw falter, that shattered the illusion of control. She wrenched her arm free from Thomas's grip, her movements swift and powerful, her newfound strength surprising even herself. She stepped away from him, towards Lasara, towards her true family. Thomas stared at her, his eyes widening in disbelief, in rage. "Alara!" he shouted. "What are you doing? Come back here." But Alara ignored him. She stood beside Lasara, her body tensing, preparing to fight, her wolf spirit awakened, her destiny revealed. The heart's true north, once obscured by lies and deception, was now clear, guiding her towards her rightful place, towards her family, towards her power. The air crackled with anticipation, the battle lines redrawn, the future uncertain, but one thing was clear. Alara had chosen her side. Chapter 15. Echoes in the Abandoned Cathedral. Alara's defiance, her conscious choice to stand with Lasara and the Holophong, sent a ripple of shock through the ranks of the Shadow Claw. Thomas, his face contorted with rage and disbelief, screamed orders, but his voice was drowned out by the growing chorus of growls from the assembled wolves. The battle resumed, but now with a renewed intensity, a heightened sense of purpose. Alara, though inexperienced, fought with a primal ferocity, her movements guided by instinct, her newfound power surprising even herself. She was a natural, a true Holophong, her blood singing with the ancient magic. Lasara fought beside her, pride and relief swelling in her chest, mingling with the ever-present fear for her granddaughter's safety. Kalen, his black fur matted with blood, fought with the relentless power of an alpha, protecting his pack, defending his mate. The tide had turned. The Shadowclaw, demoralized by Alara's defection and overwhelmed by the combined strength of the Holophong, began to fall back, retreating into the shadows, their plans disrupted. Thomas, seeing his forces crumble, his ambition thwarted, his granddaughter lost, let out a roar of frustration and fury. He lunged at Lasara, his eyes filled with a murderous rage, his intent clear. But Kalen intercepted him, his massive body blocking Thomas's attack, his powerful jaws clamping down on Thomas's arm, his claws tearing at his flesh. The two men, once bound by a fabricated past, now locked in a mortal combat, their hatred for each other palpable, their destinies intertwined. Lasara, seeing Kalen engaged with Thomas, turned her attention to Alara, guiding her, protecting her, teaching her the basics of wolf combat. She saw the raw power in her granddaughter, the untamed energy, the potential. The remaining Shadowclaw, seeing their leader engaged, retreated further, disappearing into the darkness, leaving Thomas to face Kalen alone. The fight between Kalen and Thomas was brutal and swift. Kalen, fueled by centuries of experience, by his love for Lasara, by his hatred for the betrayal, quickly gained the upper hand. He disarmed Thomas, pinning him to the ground, his powerful jaws at his throat, his golden eyes glowing with a fierce intensity. Lasara and Alara watched, their hearts pounding, their breaths held, their fates hanging in the balance. Kalen hesitated, his fangs inches from Thomas's throat, his body trembling with rage, with the urge to kill. He looked at Lasara, his eyes seeking guidance, seeking permission. Lasara met his gaze, her expression unreadable, her heart torn between justice and mercy. She remembered the man she had loved, the man she had believed Thomas to be. But she also remembered the betrayal, the lies, the danger he posed. She closed her eyes for a moment, focusing on the mark of the Holophong on her shoulder, on the ancient pact, on the responsibility she carried. She opened her eyes, her gaze firm, her decision made. "No, Kalen," she said, her voice clear and strong. "We are not like them. We do not kill needlessly." Kalen hesitated, his body still trembling, his instincts screaming at him to end the threat, to avenge the past. But he trusted Lasara, he respected her judgment, he loved her. He slowly released Thomas, stepping back, his golden eyes still fixed on his enemy, his body ready to react if necessary. Thomas lay on the ground, gasping for breath, his eyes filled with hatred, with defeat, with fear. "You should have killed me," he hissed, his voice weak. "We will let the council decide your fate," Kalen said, his voice cold. "You will answer for your crimes. For your betrayal." "Council?" Thomas seemed confused. Lysara, Kalen, and Alara, along with the other wolves, led Thomas to an abandoned cathedral, hidden deep within the woods. The cathedral was ancient, its stone walls weathered and cracked, its stained glass windows shattered, its interior filled with shadows and echoes of the past. It was a sacred place, a place of power, a place where the Holophong had once gathered, where they had held their rituals, where they had made their decisions. The other wolves, descendants of the Holophong, gathered in the cathedral, their eyes glowing in the dim light, their presence filling the space with an ancient energy. They were a diverse group, men and women of different ages, different backgrounds, different lives. But they were united by their heritage, by their power, by their destiny. Lysara explained the situation, revealing Thomas's betrayal, his connection to the Shadow Claw, his attempt to harm Alara. The wolves listened, their expressions grim, their anger palpable, their judgment clear. Thomas was brought before them, his hands bound, his head bowed, his spirit broken. He was given a chance to speak, to defend himself, to explain his actions. But he remained silent, his eyes filled with defiance, with hatred, with regret. The council, a group of elder wolves, deliberated, their voices low and solemn, their decision inevitable. Thomas Rathmore, the lead elder, said, his voice echoing through the cathedral, "You have betrayed your people, you have allied yourself with our enemies, you have attempted to harm one of our own. You are hereby banished from the Holophong, stripped of your power, cast out from our community." The punishment was severe, but just. Thomas was exiled, forced to live as a human, stripped of his wolf form, his connection to the ancient pact severed. It was a fate worse than death for a creature who had once craved power above all else. The echoes of the cathedral seemed to amplify the weight of the judgment, a solemn reminder of the consequences of betrayal and the enduring strength of the Holophong bond. Chapter 16. The Ritual of Binding. With Thomas banished and the immediate threat of the Shadow Claw diminished, the Holophong turned their attention to the more pressing matter, breaking the ancient curse and restoring their full power. Lysara, as the descendant of the first Holophong, was the key to this process, but she couldn't do it alone. She needed the support of the others, their combined energy, their unified will. Kalen, as the Alpha and Lysara's mate, took the lead in organizing the ritual, drawing upon his centuries of knowledge, his understanding of the ancient pact, his connection to the land. He chose the location, a secluded clearing deep within the forest, a place where the veil between the worlds was thin, where the magic of the land was strongest. The same place where he had first shown Lysara the truth. He gathered the necessary materials, herbs, stones, crystals, objects imbued with ancient power, symbols of the Holophong, relics of their past. He prepared the ground, drawing intricate patterns on the earth, creating a sacred space, a focus for their energy. The other wolves, including Alara, who was quickly learning to control her newfound powers, assisted in the preparations, their movements purposeful, their expressions solemn, their anticipation palpable. They were about to embark on a journey, a ritual, a transformation. As night fell, they gathered in the clearing, their bodies forming a circle around the sacred space, their eyes glowing in the moonlight, their hearts beating in unison. Kalen stood at the center, beside Lysara, his hand clasped in hers, their bond unbreakable. He began to chant, his voice low and resonant, the words ancient and unfamiliar, yet somehow resonating deep within Lysara's soul, within the souls of all the Holophong. The air around them crackled with energy, the scent of the forest intensified, the moonlight seemed to focus on the clearing, illuminating the scene with an ethereal glow. Lysara felt a tingling sensation in her fingertips, a warmth spreading through her chest, a heightened awareness of her senses. She felt the presence of the other wolves, their power merging with hers, their energy flowing into her. Kalen continued to chant, his voice growing stronger, more powerful, his golden eyes glowing with an unearthly light. He raised his hands, and the other wolves followed suit, their voices joining his, their chants creating a symphony of sound, a tapestry of magic. Lasara felt the power building within her, growing stronger, more intense, almost overwhelming. She closed her eyes, focusing on Kalen's voice, on the feeling of his hand in hers, on the connection to the land, to the other wolves, to the ancient pact. She saw visions, images of the past, of the golden age of the Holophong, of their power, their glory, their connection to the land. She saw the betrayal, the war, the curse, the suffering. She saw the future, a future of hope, of renewal, of restoration. And then she felt it, the curse breaking, a shattering sensation, a release of energy, a liberation. She felt the power of the Holophong surge through her, through the others, through the land. She opened her eyes, and the world looked different. The colors were more vivid, the sounds sharper, the sense more intense. She felt a connection to the land that she had never experienced before, a deep, profound, unbreakable bond. The other wolves gasped, their eyes widening in awe, in wonder, in relief. They felt it too. The curse was broken. The Holophong were whole again. Kalen smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes, a smile that held a hint of triumph. He looked at Lasara, his gaze filled with love, with admiration, with gratitude. "You did it, Lasara," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "You broke the curse. You restored the Holophong." Lasara smiled back, her heart overflowing with joy, with relief, with love. She had done it. They had done it. Together. But the ritual was not yet complete. There was one final step, a crucial element of binding. Kalen turned to Alara, his expression solemn. "Alara," he said, "you are a descendant of the Holophong, a carrier of the ancient blood, a part of this family. You must now choose to bind yourself to the pact, to embrace your heritage, to accept your destiny." Alara looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of apprehension and determination. She had witnessed the power of the Holophong, the beauty of their connection, the responsibility they carried. She had seen the darkness of the Shadow Claw, the cruelty of betrayal, the danger that lurked in the shadows. She had made her choice. "I choose to bind myself," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I embrace my heritage. I accept my destiny." Kalen nodded, his smile approving. He stepped forward, taking Alara's hand, leading her to the center of the circle, beside Lasara. He began to chant again, his voice low and resonant, the words ancient and powerful, a binding oath. Alara repeated the words after him, her voice joining his, her energy merging with his, with Lasara's, with the other wolves. Lasara felt the bond strengthening, the connection deepening, the family growing. She felt a surge of love for Alara, for Kalen, for the Holophong. As the final words of the oath were spoken, a wave of energy swept through the clearing, a powerful force that sealed the bond, that completed the ritual, that transformed them all. The mark of the Holophong on Lasara's, Kalen's, and now Alara's shoulders glowed brightly, a symbol of their unity, their power, their destiny. The ritual of binding was complete, the ancient pact renewed, the Holophong restored, and the future secured. Chapter 17. The Hunter's Pursuit. The restoration of the Holophang's full power did not go unnoticed. The breaking of the ancient curse sent ripples through the otherworld, alerting those who sought to control or destroy them. The most immediate threat came from a clandestine organization known as the Order of the Silver Dawn, a group of fanatical hunters dedicated to eradicating all supernatural creatures, especially werewolves. The Order had been tracking the Shadow Claw, aware of their attempts to exploit the curse for their own gain. But with the curse broken, the Order's attention shifted to the Holophong, whom they perceived as an even greater threat. The hunters were skilled, well-equipped, and ruthless. They used silver weapons, enchanted traps, and dark magic, remnants of the Shadow Claw's influence, to hunt their prey. They were relentless, driven by a fanatical belief in their cause, a hatred for anything that defied their narrow definition of normalcy. Kalen, as the Alpha, was aware of the growing threat. He had encountered the Order in the past, had fought them, had survived. He knew their methods, their tactics, their weaknesses. He organized the Holophong, training them, preparing them for the inevitable confrontation. He taught them how to fight against Silver, how to avoid traps, how to counter dark magic. He emphasized the importance of unity, of cooperation, of trust. Lysara, as the descendant of the first Holophong, played a crucial role in the preparations. She used her connection to the land, to the ancient pact, to strengthen the wolves, to enhance their powers, to guide them. Alara, now fully embracing her heritage, trained alongside the others, her natural talent and determination making her a valuable asset. She learned quickly, mastering the skills of wolf combat, her power growing with each passing day. The first attack came swiftly and unexpectedly. A small group of hunters ambushed a patrol of Holophong wolves near the edge of the forest. The wolves fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. Several were injured, and one was killed. The attack was a wake-up call, reminder of the danger they faced, of the price of freedom. Kalen was enraged, his grief and fury fueling his determination to protect his pack, to destroy the hunters. He organized a counterattack, leading a group of experienced wolves to track the hunters, to find their base, to eliminate the threat. Lysara and Alara insisted on joining him, their desire for revenge, for justice, overcoming their fear. They tracked the hunters through the forest, using their enhanced senses, their knowledge of the land, their connection to the wolf. They found their base, a hidden camp deep within the woods, a fortified compound filled with weapons, traps, and prisoners. The hunters had captured several other supernatural creatures, holding them captive, torturing them, experimenting on them. The sight of the suffering creatures fueled the Holophang's rage, their determination to end the hunters' reign of terror. They attacked the camp, their movements swift and silent, their attacks coordinated and deadly. The hunters were caught off guard, their defenses crumbling under the ferocity of the Holophong assault. The battle was brutal and chaotic. The air was filled with the sounds of growls, of snarls, of clashing steel, of screams. Silver weapons clashed against claws and fangs. Enchanted traps were triggered and avoided. Dark magic was met with ancient power. Lysara fought with a fierce determination, her silvery gray fur bristling with power, her movements guided by instinct and experience. She protected Alara, guiding her, teaching her, her love for her granddaughter fueling her strength. Alara fought bravely, her newfound powers proving to be a valuable asset. She used her agility, her speed, her connection to the wolf to outmaneuver the hunters, to disarm them, to defeat them. Kalen, as the Alpha, led the attack, his massive black form a terrifying presence on the battlefield. He fought with the relentless power of a born leader, his golden eyes glowing with a fierce intensity, his hatred for the hunters fueling his rage. They freed the captured creatures, releasing them from their cages, offering them protection, offering them hope. They destroyed the hunters' weapons, their traps, their dark magic artifacts. They cornered the leader of the hunters, a cruel and fanatical man, driven by a hatred for anything he didn't understand, anything he couldn't control. He fought with a desperate fury, his silver weapons flashing in the dim light, his eyes filled with hatred. But he was no match for the combined strength of the Holophong. Kalen disarmed him, pinning him to the ground, his powerful jaws at his throat, his golden eyes glowing with a fierce intensity. Lysara and Alara stood beside him, their presence a testament to the unity, the power, the destiny of the Holophong. The hunters' pursuit had ended in their defeat, their reign of terror brought to an end, their threat eliminated. But the victory was bittersweet, tinged with the memory of the fallen, the scars of battle. Chapter 18. The Edge of the Abyss. The defeat of the Order of the Silver Dawn brought a temporary reprieve, a moment of peace, a chance to heal. The Holophong returned to Oakhaven, their victory celebrated, their losses mourned. Lysara, Kaelin, and Alara focused on rebuilding, on strengthening their community, on preparing for the future. They knew that the Order was just one of many threats, that the world was still a dangerous place for supernatural creatures, that the fight for survival was far from over. They established a council, a governing body of elder wolves, to make decisions, to enforce laws, to guide the Holophong. Lasara, as the descendant of the first Holophong, was given a seat on the council, her wisdom, her experience, her connection to the ancient pact valued by all. Kaelin, as the Alpha, continued to lead the pack, his strength, his courage, his love for Lasara his driving force. He trained the younger wolves, teaching them the skills of combat, the importance of unity, the responsibilities of their heritage. Alara, now fully embracing her destiny, blossomed into a powerful and confident young woman. She became a leader in her own right, her natural talent, her determination, her compassion earning her the respect and admiration of the other wolves. But the peace was shattered by a new threat, a more insidious, more powerful enemy. Whispers began to circulate, rumors of a dark force rising, of an ancient evil returning, of a prophecy being fulfilled. The whispers spoke of a creature known as the Nightshade, a being of immense power, a master of dark magic, a corrupter of souls. The Nightshade had been defeated centuries ago by the first Holophong, sealed away in a hidden dimension, a prison of shadows. But now, it seemed, the prison was weakening, the seals were breaking, the Nightshade was stirring. The prophecy spoke of a time when the Nightshade would return, when it would seek to reclaim its power, when it would plunge the world into darkness. The Holophong were understandably alarmed, their fear and apprehension growing with each passing day. They knew that if the Nightshade returned, it would be a threat unlike any they had ever faced, a danger that could destroy them all. Kaelin, as the Alpha, felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He knew that the Holophong were the only ones who could stand against the Nightshade, that they were the last line of defense. He consulted with Lasara, with the council, with the elders. They studied the ancient texts, the forgotten lore, the prophecies. They sought guidance from the spirits of the land, from the ancestors. They discovered that the Nightshade could only be defeated by a weapon of immense power, a weapon forged from the purest light, a weapon infused with the essence of the ancient pact. The weapon was known as the Sunstone, a legendary artifact, a mythical object. It was said to be hidden somewhere in the other world, guarded by ancient spirits, protected by powerful magic. Kaelin knew that finding the Sunstone was their only hope, their only chance to defeat the Nightshade, to save the world. He decided to embark on a quest, a journey into the other world, a perilous undertaking. Lasara and Alara insisted on joining him, their love for him, their loyalty to the Holophong, their determination to fight overcoming their fear. They prepared for the journey, gathering supplies, honing their skills, strengthening their bond. They knew that the other world was a dangerous place, filled with unknown creatures, with treacherous landscapes, with powerful magic. They found a portal, a hidden gateway between the worlds, a place where the veil was thin, where the magic was strong. They performed a ritual, opening the portal, stepping through the threshold. They found themselves in a strange and surreal landscape, a world of shifting shadows, of ethereal lights, of unfamiliar sounds. The air was thick with magic, the ground felt unstable. They encountered creatures of myth and legend, spirits and demons, guardians and monsters. They faced challenges, trials, and temptations. They journeyed for days, weeks, months, their bodies weary, their spirits tested, their determination unwavering. They followed the clues, the whispers, the guidance of the ancient spirits. They finally reached their destination, a hidden temple, a place of immense power, a sanctuary of light. They found the Sunstone, a glowing crystal, radiating a warm, golden light, pulsating with ancient energy. But as they reached for the Sunstone, a figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, imposing figure, clad in black robes, its face hidden behind a dark mask, its eyes glowing with a sinister red light. It was the Nightshade. It had been waiting for them, anticipating their arrival, its power growing stronger with each passing moment. It stood between them and the Sunstone, its presence a dark cloud, a threat to their very existence. They were standing on the edge of the abyss, the fate of the world hanging in the balance, their courage and their bond about to be tested like never before. Chapter 19. The Soul's Surrender. The Nightshade's presence was overwhelming, a palpable wave of darkness that threatened to consume them. Its voice, when it spoke, was a chilling whisper that echoed through the temple, filled with malice and ancient power. "You cannot stop me," it hissed. "The prophecy will be fulfilled. The world will be plunged into darkness. I will rule." Kalen stepped forward, his massive black wolf form a stark contrast to the Nightshade's shadowy figure. He growled, a low, menacing sound that resonated with defiance. "We will not let you," he said, his voice firm. "The Holophong will stand against you. We will protect the world." Lysara and Ilara stood beside him, their silvery gray fur bristling with power, their golden eyes glowing with determination. They were ready to fight, to die, to save the world. The Nightshade laughed, a cruel, mocking sound that sent shivers down their spines. "You're no match for me," it said. "You are weak, insignificant." It raised its hand, and a wave of dark energy surged towards them, a force that threatened to crush them, to obliterate them. Kalen met the attack, his body shielding Lysara and Ilara, his power clashing with the Nightshades, creating a shockwave that shook the temple. The battle began, a clash between light and darkness, between good and evil, between hope and despair. The Nightshade was incredibly powerful, its dark magic seemingly limitless, its attacks relentless. Kalen fought with the strength and skill of an alpha, his claws and fangs tearing at the Nightshade's shadowy form, his body enduring the brunt of its attacks. Lysara and Ilara fought alongside him, their combined powers of force to be reckoned with. Lysara used her connection to the ancient pact, to the land, to weaken the Nightshade, to disrupt its magic, to protect them. Ilara, with her youthful energy and growing mastery of her powers, attacked with a fierce determination, her claws and fangs finding their mark, her spirit unwavering. But the Nightshade was too strong. It seemed to anticipate their every move, to counter their every attack, to wear them down. Kalen was injured, his body weakened, his strength failing. Lysara and Ilara were exhausted, their powers depleted, their hope dwindling. The Nightshade loomed over them, its victory seemingly inevitable, its darkness threatening to consume them all. "It's over," it hissed. "You have failed. The world is mine." Lysara looked at Kalen, at his wounded body, at his weary eyes, at the love she felt for him. She looked at Ilara, at her youthful spirit, at her unwavering determination, at the future she represented. She knew what she had to do. She stepped forward, facing the Nightshade, her head held high, her eyes filled with a fierce resolve. "You may defeat us," she said, her voice clear and strong.
"But you will not win.
The light will always find a way. The Holophong will never surrender." She reached out and touched the Sunstone, her fingers closing around the warm, glowing crystal, feeling its ancient energy surge through her, filling her with power. She knew that the Sunstone was their only hope, their only chance to defeat the Nightshade, to save the world. But she also knew that using its power would come at a cost. A great cost. The Sunstone was not just a weapon, it was a conduit, a channel, a sacrifice. To unleash its full power, she would have to give herself to it, to merge her soul with its essence, to become one with the light. It was a choice, a decision, a surrender. She looked at Kalen, at his loving eyes, at the silent understanding that passed between them. She looked at Ilara, at her hopeful gaze, at the future she was fighting for. She closed her eyes, focusing on the Sunstone, on its power, on its light. She whispered a silent farewell, a promise, a prayer. And then, she unleashed the Sunstone's power. A blinding light erupted from the crystal, filling the temple, engulfing the Nightshade, consuming its darkness, shattering its form. The nightshade screamed, a sound of pain, of anguish, of defeat. Its shadowy figure dissolved, its power dissipated, its thread extinguished. The temple was filled with a warm, golden light, a light of hope, of renewal, of victory. But Lasara was gone. Her body had vanished, her soul merged with the sunstone, her essence becoming one with the light. She had sacrificed herself to save the world, to protect her loved ones, to fulfill her destiny. Kaelin and Alara stood there, stunned, heartbroken, their tears mingling with the golden light. They had won, but at a terrible cost. They had lost Lasara, their leader, their mother, their mate. The soul's surrender had been complete, the ultimate sacrifice made, the victory bittersweet, the future uncertain. Chapter 20. The final confrontation of hearts. The silence in the temple was profound, broken only by Kaelin's anguished howl and Alara's heartbroken sobs. The golden light of the sunstone, now dimmed but still present, pulsed gently, a constant reminder of Lasara's sacrifice. Kaelin, his massive wolf form trembling with grief, lowered his head, his golden eyes filled with an unbearable sorrow. He had lost his mate, his love, his soul. He felt a void in his heart, a gaping wound that he knew would never fully heal. Alara, her silvery gray fur matted with tears, collapsed to the ground, her body racked with sobs. She had lost her grandmother, her mentor, her hero. She felt a pain so intense, so overwhelming, that she thought she would break. But amidst the grief, amidst the despair, there was a flicker of something else. A faint warmth, a subtle presence, a whisper of hope. The sunstone pulsed again, its golden light growing slightly brighter, its energy shifting. Kaelin and Alara looked up, their eyes widening in disbelief, in wonder. They heard a voice, a familiar voice, a voice filled with love, with wisdom, with peace. Kaelin Alara, it was Lasara's voice. But it wasn't coming from a physical form. It was coming from within the sunstone. "I am here," she said, her voice gentle and reassuring. "I am not gone. I am part of the light now. Part of the ancient pact." Kaelin and Alara stared at the sunstone, their hearts pounding, their minds struggling to comprehend what was happening. "Grandmother?" Alara whispered, her voice trembling. "Is that you?" "Yes, my child," Lasara replied. "It is me. I am with you. Always." Kaelin let out a soft whimper, a sound of relief, of gratitude, of love. He approached the sunstone cautiously, his massive form dwarfed by the glowing crystal, his golden eyes filled with a mixture of sorrow and wonder. "Lasara," he said, his voice choked with emotion. We miss you." "I miss you too, my love," Lasara said. "But I am at peace. I have fulfilled my destiny. I have saved the world. But you're gone," Alara said, her voice filled with grief. "We will never see you again." "You will see me," Lasara said. "In the sunrise, in the moonlight, in the wind, in the trees. I am everywhere. I am part of everything." She paused, her voice softening. "You must be strong," she said. "You must carry on. You must lead the Holofong. You must protect the world." Kaelin nodded, his body still trembling, but his resolve strengthening. "We will," he said. "We promise." Alara nodded, too, her tears still flowing, but her spirit renewed. "We will make you proud, grandmother," she said. "We will honor your sacrifice." "I know you will," Lasara said. "You are both strong, courageous, and loving. You are the future of the Holofong." She paused again, her voice becoming fainter. "I must go now," she said. "But I will always be with you. In your hearts. In your souls." The golden light of the sunstone dimmed, its energy receding, its presence fading. Lasara's voice was gone, but her love, her wisdom, her spirit remained. Kaelin and Alara stood there for a long time, their hearts filled with a mixture of grief and gratitude. They had lost Lasara, but they had also gained something. A deeper understanding of love, of sacrifice, of destiny. They knew that they would never forget her, that her memory would live on in their hearts, in their actions, in the future of the Holophong. They left the temple, stepping back into the other world, their journey complete. They returned to their own world, to Oakhaven, to the Holophong. They shared Lasara's message, her sacrifice, her legacy. The Holophong mourned her loss, but they also celebrated her life, her courage, her love. Kalen, as the Alpha, continued to lead the pack, his grief tempered by his determination to honor Lasara's memory, to fulfill her wishes. Alara, now a powerful and respected leader in her own right, stood beside him, her spirit strengthened by her grandmother's sacrifice, her destiny clear. They rebuilt their community, strengthened their defenses, prepared for the future. They knew that the world was still a dangerous place, that there would be other threats, other challenges. But they were ready. They were united. They were strong. They were the Holophong. And they would never forget Lasara Rathmore, the woman who had sacrificed everything to save them, to save the world, to become one with the light. The final confrontation had not been of weapons or magic, but of hearts. Lasara's heart choosing the ultimate sacrifice, and Kalen and Alara's hearts accepting her choice and vowing to carry on her legacy. Epilogue. Years passed. Oakhaven, once a quiet village, became a sanctuary, a hidden haven for the Holophong and other supernatural creatures who sought refuge from the prejudices and dangers of the outside world. The ancient pact, renewed and strengthened by Lasara's sacrifice, flourished, binding the community together, protecting them, empowering them. Kalen, his black fur now streaked with silver, remained the Alpha, his wisdom and strength guiding the Holophong through times of peace and uncertainty. He never forgot Lasara, her memory a constant presence in his heart, a guiding light in his decisions. He often visited the clearing where the torches had first burned blue, where he had first met her, where he had fallen in love. He would sit there, beneath the weeping willows, feeling her presence in the wind, in the trees, in the moonlight. He never took another mate. His heart belonged to Lasara, eternally bound to her soul, to her memory. He found solace in leading the pack, in protecting his people, in honoring her legacy. Alara, now a mature and powerful woman, became a leader in her own right, her wisdom and compassion earning her the respect and admiration of all. She inherited Lasara's connection to the land, to the ancient pact, to the spirits. She became a healer, a guide, a protector. She married a young wolf from a neighboring pack, a strong and kind man who loved her deeply and respected her power. They had children, children who carried the blood of the Holophong, children who were taught the stories of Lasara, of her courage, of her sacrifice. The children would often ask about their great-grandmother, about the woman who had saved the world, about the woman who had become one with the light. Alara would tell them the stories, her voice filled with love and awe. She would take them to the clearing beneath the weeping willows, where the torches had once burned blue, where the magic had awakened. She would show them the mark of the Holophong on her wrist, a symbol of their heritage, of their destiny. She would tell them about Kalen, about his love for Lasara, about his unwavering loyalty, about his strength. She would tell them about the ancient pact, about the responsibility they carried, about the importance of protecting the balance between the worlds. And sometimes, when the moon was full and the wind was gentle, they would feel it. A faint warmth, a subtle presence, a whisper of love. They would feel Lasara. They would know that she was still with them, watching over them, guiding them, protecting them. They would know that she was part of the land, part of the magic, part of the light. And they would understand. They would understand the meaning of sacrifice, the power of love, the importance of destiny. They would understand that the Holophong were not just a clan of shapeshifters. They were a family, bound together by blood, by magic, by love. They would understand that they were the future, the hope, the legacy of Lasara Rathmore. And they would carry on, protecting the world, honoring her memory, living their lives in accordance with the ancient pact, their hearts filled with gratitude, with love, with light. The cycle continued, the legacy lived on, and the spirit of Lasara Rathmore, forever woven into the fabric of the Holophong, remained an eternal beacon of hope and resilience.
The end.